Hello, my name is Bailey Pell, and I am currently a costume major at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. As well as I am enrolled in digital media for the artist this semester. This is about my final project, which is the study of artistic response to spoken word poetry. I'd like to start with 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I became a student in the visual arts program at the high school of University of North Carolina School of the Arts. And here I was introduced to Deanna, who was a heavy participant and beautiful spoken word writer. She was a beautiful speaker and writer, actually. She inspired me, and her poetry inspired me, and I never really had a chance to completely explore this new community. So when I was given the opportunity to explore whatever I wanted, I chose to explore spoken word. Um, it's so funny. Artistic response is such a personal thing. Not one response is going to be exactly the same as the other. So if I respond to poetry, someone else's response is not going to be even nearly the same. How I see the words moving, how the rhythm flows in my head, and what imagery is brought to mind is not going to be the same because of my experiences and how I relate to that poem. So this exploration was much more a personal and artistic exploration rather than a factual, historical exploration of spoken word poetry, which I thought was more beneficial to me as a being and as an artist, to come in better connection with myself and how I respond and react and hear things. So my process for this response was first, how often? As often as I could without being extremely stressed, because I did not want that to play into how I responded to the poem, unless the poem was very stressed and high energy and uncomfortable, which then I guess that would have been the ideal timing. I manipulated my space, sound, focus, and lighting based on each poem individually. So each of these responses was heavily just me and my poem kind of thing, one-on-one time. The space would depend on the space given in the poem. If it was a heavy and crowded and noisy area filled with tension, I would go and work in a public space where I was not completely alone and I was experiencing what the character in the poem was speaking about. If it was quiet, secluded, and personal, I would choose to seclude myself in my room and focus heavily on being alone and experiencing these emotions that are given. The noise was also the same, and that was carried with the space usually. However, I would make sure that wherever I was, my poem was on repeat, so the words were constantly playing through my head. I never had a period where I was listening to something else of a different emotion or music, producing different lyrics and manipulating my direct initial response to the poem. I really didn't want there to be any other focus other than me and that poem. The lighting is also the same. If it was warm and comforting, I would try to surround myself with warm and comforting lighting. If it was cold and heavy, I would try to work at night. If it was cheery and happy, I would try to work during the day outside. So the representation given in my postcards or a little bit larger pieces. They're all about 4x6 or larger, depending on if I worked in my sketchbook or if I worked on a specific small separate piece. I didn't use any reference or source images unless I was doing collage. Obviously, I was pulling from magazines while repeatedly listening to the poem, initially pulling what exactly I saw and was like, that's relevant, that's relevant. But other than that, if I was using my own hand, I didn't use others' imagery or very many source images, as I wanted it to be direct and personal and initial and exactly what I saw. When I was studying the historical aspect of the spoken word, I noticed that there were only poetic responses to art and not artistic responses to poems, which I thought was extremely interesting. Which was just another way for me to explore something new that people haven't really explored and done before. It was a completely clean and new project for me to work on that I wasn't going to easily be manipulated or changed by others' way of viewing it. And the best thing really about this is that it's benefiting me as a costume student and an artist. The way I'm hearing and listening to and experiencing these people and their personal and intimate experiences or emotions or moods is the same way I hope to experience each individual character that I ever analyze. I don't want to just read and hear a character. I really want to feel and become that character. So I hope you enjoy my responses, and I would be curious if you choose to hear how you analyze them, and if you think that they are actually a good physical representation of that poem. Of course, it may or may not be. You may hear it completely different. I don't really want to tell you exactly why those images came out to mind or why I chose to express it in that medium or that with that symbolism, because that's my personal exploration. But I can say that I have learned a lot about myself and about how I respond and think about and feel things, and how I can put myself in a different place completely while I'm doing my artwork. I hope you enjoy them. I guess if you do have any questions, you're free to ask me. Thank you.